Hi guys, thanks so much for watching. Speaking of Founders Mission, I'm Stephanie, and today I have Troy Bagne, the CEO of Wanido. And Wanido is well-being and engagement platform that focuses on culture, health, and finance. And they were recently selected as the EBN 2020 Digital Innovator, one of the EBN 2020 Digital Innovators. So Troy, what was that like?
Yeah, one, it's great to be recognized. Obviously, with Wanido and what we do, we've spent a lot of time, effort, research, surveying a lot of our broker consultant partners. So to come up with something new in the market that we believe is really solving a need not only at the employer level, but also at the employee level. This is the start of our journey. We have a lot more different items that we're going to be adding to the platform moving forward.
One of the things that they mentioned in your award was that they really loved that you did polls and surveys that allows employers to have year-round access to what their employees are thinking. Why is that so important for employers to be able to see what they're thinking and not just guess about it?
Fantastic question. Here at Wanido, we look at culture as a living, breathing type part of the company. It never stops. It's always constantly evolving. So the way we built out Wanido is, yes, we do surveys, pulse surveys. We also know that that's just a piece of the pie. There's also things in the Wanido platform like doing recognition, giving high fives, feedback, suggestions. So some of the data that we crave and like the most is somewhat of the action speaks louder than words theory. So we're actually combining not only the survey data, the pulse survey, but also the actions of those employees in the platform to get a better idea of what that culture is. And then really understanding of the root cause, either good or bad, of how we can actually help that organization solve their problems moving forward.
That's something I love about Wanido because so many things do focus on the surface level treatments or what people just perceive to be the issues. How do you guys use whatever techniques you do within your software to get to those root causes?
We do a lot of still surveys, pulses. That's where we get a lot of our data. But as we start asking questions and the clicks within our platform, we'll start seeing what we call the root cause. So one of the stats that we continually think about here at Wanido is the 70% of employees being disengaged, 40% of employees being unhealthy or living an unhealthy lifestyle, and then 50% of people living paycheck to paycheck. So those are the three elements. And as we really studied those, in order to solve really anything in life, not just benefits and culture, you got to find the root. And within our platform, we separated down what we call 13 sub-elements. And that's where our system will, throughout the engagement process, throughout the months and years that are on our platform, that's when we'll start figuring out the root cause of what is actually causing the culture and where you need to improve it. And another saying we have here is, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So a lot of our clients that come on board may think their culture is fantastic. They may think their employees are healthy and living great lifestyles, but the data will prove differently. And that's very eye-opening for our clients right away within the platform to get that raw data, that raw feeling from their employees, because that's where those employees will start letting down their guard to actually start telling the system where they need help. And on the backside, then Stephanie, of course, it's all de-identified on the back end, so you'll never actually know those exact employees what their issues are, but you'll get a high-level idea of what, at a global level, what those employees are dealing with and struggling with.
What encourages the employees to be really candid in these surveys? And how is it different whenever you're taking the approach of doing a year-round survey and poll versus just doing those annual surveys that you mentioned before?
I think a key piece is we spent a lot of time with psychologists, behavioral psychologists, in developing our questions, and the flow and the order and the style is a lot different than a lot of our customers are used to. The surveys and engagement starts off relatively soft to get them to trust the system. We've also put in a lot of triggers in the platform, whether cues or nudges, to make them feel comfortable. So they know redundant every time they log in that your employer won't see your answer. So they're very comfortable saying, as an example, that, you know what, I would not recommend this organization to family and friends. Or, you know what, I am struggling with my health. I am really struggling paycheck to paycheck. And that takes time. You know, from a psychology standpoint, a lot of systems we saw previous to Wanido is that they try to silver bullet. You know, they try to take it out and say, here's 100 questions. What's your health like, your finance? And then they get the data and that's it. You know, they might implement maybe a program or a partial program. But as we talk, it's organic, it's growing. Myself specifically, as I constantly change where I need a little bit more health information, finance nudges, my presenteeism drops for certain things that I might deal with, but the system will actually help me get out of that. And that's the key with people really wanting to engage, is that it's personalized. We did launch our personas here last month as well. So our system is starting to think and act like them. And that's the only way people will start getting truly motivated and truly having that intent to start changing.
You said that the system thinks. So are you using AI then to help with these solutions that you're offering to employees?
Absolutely. So the entire back end of the platform is built on AI. So it'll learn more about you. It'll start triggering articles that are specific to you, because we're all a little bit different. I'm married with three children. Some of our staff might not have children, or they're much younger than my children. So the system is going to look and operate a lot differently per person. And that's, again, the beauty that we understand here at Wanido. So our system and the ability to pinpoint the root cause of not only individual helps and needs, but also at the employer level and aggregating that data is ultimately the point of us getting our clients an understanding of that organizational health. And without measuring it, like you said, you're just kind of guessing, and you're probably telling them much more analytical. I would rather see the data and make decisions based off data.
A lot of times, like you said, it's a silver bullet, and a company goes in and says, hey, we have these needs within our organization, and here's the culture of our company. But they don't really know if they're not actually talking to employees. And even if they're talking to them once a year, they don't know what that's like year round. If 2020 has proven nothing to us, it is that we are not the same people that we were 6-7 months ago.
Correct.
And so Wanido really addresses that issue in that very specific way by growing with the people and adjusting as they need it. Tell me how that makes you feel, knowing that you guys can really serve people by thinking about not just the employer's needs, but the employee as a person.
And which is fantastic. I love that statement, because really when the Wanido system evolved or started the evolution it's always about leveraging data to make better decisions. In my past, I worked for some great companies and had some great product launches, but they were all about simplifying at the employer level, whether it's an enrollment or a payroll, onboarding. A lot of those platforms are great, but they're really meant for the employer to streamline. What we looked at it as, what if you could really try help that employee? And by doing so, by getting the employees the help they need to be able to give suggestions and offer feedback, and in a truly easy way that they trust the system and their employer won't hear, the downstream effect of that back to that employer is massive. So the goal being obviously having a highly engaged, healthy, financially secure workforce, of course, will drive your productivity and profitability. So when employers get the measurements in the reports, it blows their mind at, wow, this is the first tool we've ever seen where we actually are getting in the minds of our employees, that we can actually measure it. And then the downstream of that, of course, is when employers get the measurements in the reports, it blows their mind at, wow, this is the first tool we've ever seen where we actually are getting in the minds of our employees, that we can actually measure it.
There's a really great article from Accenture, and it talked about the 6 human needs that people have. And it was financial, emotional, mental, relational, physical, purposeful, and employable. And Wanido, focusing on culture, health, and finance, really handles that whole wheel of needs so perfectly. How do you so concisely identify all of the things that really matter to make somebody truly engaged?
In brainstorming Wanido and building out Wanido, we spent a lot of time on the psychology standpoint, because part of the other passion that I have is I've, again, been a broker. I've been on the enrollment type tech side, and it's always nice to get them enrolled and you think they understand their benefits and all that stuff. But by really getting into their needs and how they want data and what do they need is the underlying root cause of what we believe is where we're at. So like, as you mentioned, those 6 elements, the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So there's a lot of that in the system that is built that you would never recognize, but being built on the back end by psychologists, behavioral psychologists, it's 100% the engine of Wanido is the mind, which is why we released our personas, which is why everything is personalized, because we truly do believe everyone's unique. And in the right format. We think Wanido is a great format for this. They will start trusting and using the system that they want to use it, which is going to help, at least do our part in help solving a lot of the issues we're struggling with today.
Tell me how the personas work and what that's about.
That was a fun discussion because, of course, as you deal with psychologists, there's a 16 kind of core, but in reality, from what I'm hearing, is there's probably 64. But to start on the platform, we really built it out into 8 personas, and it's everywhere from how you want your information. Are you super extrovert? Are you introvert? Like, how do you want this data to start coming in? How your learning style? How do you like to be engaged? So we have all this stuff built in the persona profile, which is why our engagement rate is so high today. Is we're getting the data the way they want to get the data. We're getting it in their format. We have some really cool tools coming where the questions, how things are laid out, are going to be adjusted by our personas to really test that. Because in life, when I used to do enroll meetings, it's kind of corny, but I used to always stand up and say, well, how many of us want to be healthy? Right? And everybody raised their hand, kind of corny. But to me then why aren't we? Mm-hmm. And I know that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but that's the way my mind works of, well, if you want to be healthy, then us as an industry are doing it the wrong way. Same with engagement. Like who wants to be at a job they don't like, or where they don't like their boss, or they don't like that they're only promoting, say, men as an example. And I feel like there's just a lot of problems. Nobody wants to work that way. You need to have the rut, and you need to start looking at the persona is a great way, but all those different aspects in our platform to start revealing what people are truly feeling. And that's the only way, again, in our mind, we can fix it.
Are people surprised to see finance as one of the 3 core areas that you focus on? Because I think everybody commonly associates culture and health with employment life, but don't necessarily think of that finance that you guys have added.
Yeah, so that was a huge piece, again, that we've been studying a long time. And it's also one of those pieces that people just don't want to talk about. And the reason that we put that as a core element is that is a massive driver for everything else in your life. And so as we built that out, you only make X amount of money, and you might be late for work because you can't afford a new tire. You might be late for work because your car died. There are a lot of things that drive that presenteeism, that absenteeism, that are tied to the finance. And as you know, we look at all the studies and where the average American is at with literacy and all this stuff, we need to help them because, again, at the end of the day, people don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. They don't want that gut feeling in their stomach of, I can't afford to go to work today. That is a horrible feeling. And we think just by education, getting them the tools they need, the calculators they need, some of the content and the services that are within Wanido, we're starting them on the right path. It may take some time. It's little things like knowing your credit that, again, most people may not know. That drives a lot of different things in your life. As we talk through the finance piece, that is the one we get the most questions about, why, but it's also, I think, pretty close to one of the key drivers into what makes people tick.
One of the other really neat things that I think makes Wanido special is your own personal mission. And so I know that you have a degree from Notre Dame, which in itself is incredibly impressive. You went for finance, then took a path of sales leadership. And then, as you said a second or two ago, that you ended up deciding to form Wanido because of these opportunities that you saw. But you said that you have a personal reason for how you ended up really shifting your focus from, just employer or career growth to this super personal mission of helping employees.
Absolutely. And with that, I'm a strong believer things just happen for a reason, both good and bad. And the ultimate how we got to the Wanido position was by happenstance. In one of my previous jobs, I traveled a lot. So I spent a lot of times up in the Bird. And just by coincidence, I was sitting next to one of the board members of Notre Dame. And he didn't say that right away, but he was asking me a lot about what I do, about college life and all that stuff before he did mention he was on the board. So then when he finally said, "Hey, Troy, I'm on the board of Notre Dame. I'd like to meet our alumni. Thank you for your time." And then so I started asking him questions, and he started answering those questions as though telling me essentially that the goal of Notre Dame is not necessarily to make a lot of money. It's not necessarily to start a company and sell it. It's about giving back. It's using the knowledge and things you learn at the school, and how do you drive that back into make the world a better place. And so I had to look in the mirror and figure out what I was good at. I was a broker in my past. I worked for some awesome, great TPA. I was owned and started an HCM, but it really kind of triggered my mind of what can we do better. I was successful, but at the end of the day, I wasn't really solving the issues that I think that we could have with the experience I had. So that was the start of it, but the real core start of why I really wanted to help people is my daughter has a health condition, and when she was born, and it's an ongoing thing that is obviously super close to my heart, and a lot of things we were running into. I was in the business, and it was a struggle for me to figure out, well, who is the best cardiac surgeon? Who is the best? Like, where are the stats? How am I supposed to make a decision on where to go if I don't know how good you are? So then I started obviously putting myself in other people's positions. The clients we had, they have families, they have children. We all have different struggles. And that's the combination of what I learned in my past as a broker on the vendor side, knowing ben admin technology and payroll technology, and then the human aspect of all of this data. We can actually help people make better decisions, and that's the ultimate goal of the Wanido platform. Is we do think by leveraging data that we can actually start making an impact not only at the employee level, but that is a downstream effect back to the employer.
I was reading online today that globally, just 15% of employees are engaged, and in the US, it's 33%, which is incredibly costly to these employers. And so, being able to focus on the things that matter the most, like to you when you were dealing with your daughter and trying to find the best doctors for her, that was probably what was at the top of your mind, not being engaged at work. So, if you had something like Wanido back then, how would that have changed your ability to function as a whole person at work and at home?
I think personally, how our system would trigger that is we are targeting the top 10 health conditions. So through the platform, it would have alerted me. It would have gave me some great content, some service providers, which would have been fantastic. But I think where it truly would have helped me as an employee at the time was having our employer understand that people do deal with things. It was one of my first employer when this happened, and it wasn't that they treated me negatively, but it was questions like, so Troy, when are you going to come back? And I remember sitting down with my wife, literally crying, saying, I can't believe that was the first question they asked me. And it kind of just left me hollow with, they only care about my work. They don't really care about Troy, that I was down in Rochester. They didn't really see the full aspect of it. So I think me personally, yes, it affected, but I think the whole, as employers now start understanding, because there's been some awesome research finally that are coming to the fact that you need to care about people, because then they'll care more for you. And like you said, when you look at the disengagement rate and the amount of money people are at work, kind of working, not really wanting to be there, not wanting to work hard for that employer, you're right, it's a tremendous amount of money. Which is bad for the employer, but also that employee. I mean, nobody wants to be at a job they don't like, that they don't feel that they're wanted, they're not needed. And that's what the Wanido system will start pulling out of people. In my instance, when going through that with my daughter, they probably said, hey, just call Troy and ask him when he's coming back. And that's what they did. And I'll never, ever forget that moment my entire life, how inhumane I felt.
That is just devastating. You
Yeah.
really, work is the last thing on your mind. I mean, it's literal, like life and death. That's all you want somebody to care about. It's just you as a human at that point.
Exactly. And too, on that point too, is again, not knowing that I'm not alone in that. A lot of our prospects or before they're a client think, no, I understand my employees. I know their health. They feel good. They tell me what they need. And then when the data starts coming back, is very, very eye-opening, because as we all know, health conditions, financial things, you don't walk around tattooed on your forehead that you're struggling with X, Y, or Z, and they're not income dependent. So you're just guessing. And again, that's a huge eye opener for our clients when they start getting that data back on, wow, we really need to start doing more for our organization.
And so how important is this right now in this really unusual time that we're all dealing with the pandemic and everybody really having to manage a remote workforce? not knowing what situations are like at home, their work environment, maybe their health situation, could be finance, a husband or a wife lost a job. How is Wanido helping now, and why is it more needed than ever in this current climate?
Yeah, you said it beautifully. The pandemic, if anything, put Wanido more top of mind. All the stats coming back out are well-being, caring for your employees. What do they need? Do they feel comfortable with COVID? The response with their employers, homeschooling. I have 3 children that are homeschooled, so life has just been adjusted. So obviously that was not in our roadmap, like anybody's, the pandemic, but where it's helpful now is we are the only system that can give you true insight today. And we did that purposely in the interconnectivity of the culture, your life, health and finance are all interconnected. And for once employers recognize that and know that, especially through the pandemic, when you don't have the water cooler chat, you can't look somebody in the eye as necessarily to say, hey, how's your day? And you look them in the eye and you can tell something's bothering them. And that's where the Wanido system is really organic, and it's constantly evolving with the employees' needs. It's almost like a living, breathing thing on its own. And that's what our clients are seeing through the pandemic is we're communicating as much as we can. Well, the data in the system's saying you're not, or it's in the wrong way, or instead of doing a blast email that gets stuck in, email black hole, do on-sites, do meet with a coffee, ask your HR anything. So there's all these things that companies are doing within the platform that are bringing the people together. And that's what's been fun as we go through this pandemic is we always knew the need was in the market. It's just unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on, it's really put Wanido on the front burner of we need this now. We need to understand our employees' needs, and we have to stop guessing. And that's when I'm on a prospect call, that's my biggest line all the time is, well, how do you know that? How do you measure that? How do you know that's working? Because if you don't, I've been in a lot of organizations with some great ideas that just flop. That we introduce a wellness plan, 20% of the people are on it, 85% of them are super, super healthy anyways. Is that what you really wanted to do with that program as an example? And there's the insight, the power of making decisions out of data where Wanido is doing a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm. What does the user experience feel like to these people? What kind of feedback do you get when they go in and they experience Wanido?
Yeah, so we built it a lot like the current social media platforms. There's a reason the Twitter, the Pinterest, the LinkedIn, the Facebook get a lot of traction. The average LinkedIn user hits it 6 times a day or something like that, or the high utilizers. So we put a lot of that in our platform, and it gets back to the psychology of it, the view of it, the look. We even went down to the color aspect of how to do that. And so our users, it's very social media-like. That's the first thing everyone always says, like, wow, I like this. This doesn't feel like a work platform. And we did that intentionally because as we looked again in the market, a lot of other solutions were built for the employer. They weren't built for that human aspect, the eyes, where do I want to see my updates? Where do I want to see my posts? Where do I want to see my high fives? So we're trying to mimic what people are used to, what works.
Whenever they have an issue, say smoking, or something that they're trying to work on, or that they've identified themselves as a smoker, and that's something that obviously the employer wants to send smoking cessation information to, how do they receive that, and how do you build that relationship with them and get them on that track to make tangible changes?
In our platform today, again, to get them to trust and use the system, it starts out pretty light, as I mentioned, to get them to like it. It's not too intrusive to start, but as the system starts understanding you, we have a spot in our system, you can connect all your health data. By the way, it doesn't stay in our system. It's all APIs. So you log in, data comes in. When you log out, it's out. So there's no way for us at Wanido or your employer in this example to see it. But it does start building that story on you on the back end on what items you're dealing with on smoking. So it would trigger articles on how to quit smoking. Depending on your persona, those might be different articles and place different spots. Our goal specifically with smoking is just to start that foundation. At a lot of the top 10, it's just us starting that discussion of smoking. Yeah, I know, or it's mental health, yes, I know, thank you, Wanido, and we slowly prime them. And that'll be coming here in a future release. Is then now, once we know that, we can start sending that data, whether it's an API or a push, to other entities that are way better than Wanido at that, that are really good at smoking cessation. That's all they do, because we're not fans of recreating the wheel. So whether it's a mental health, whether it's smoking, whether it's losing weight, diabetes, there's some tremendous companies out there already that do that well. Now I feel it's our role here at Wanido to find that problem, set that foundation, and do our best we can to push that to people that already do it well.
It's such a brilliant way to do it too, because as you said, you don't need to recreate the wheel, and there are people who are doing it so well. And there are so many companies that try to do everything themselves because they're so afraid to connect with somebody else or to lose a potential of anything. But Wanido, it really shows the strength and the confidence that you guys have in your product and your ability to help people, to connect them to experts that can help with those conditions and really make an impact, which is going to further tie them to your platform because they're going to trust you and want to be part of what you're offering. What are the differentiators between Wanido and the other people trying to do similar things in the same space?
I think the biggest differentiator with us is our belief that you truly need to understand that entire person, which is why we launched our personas, to understand that in order to fix the problem. And I say that there are some awesome companies doing some really cool things, but the data tells me the last 10 years, we're in the exact same spot we were 10 years ago. And that's the sad part to us at Wanido. We got to fix that.
It seems like a lot of times people just look at engagement on a surface level of they're showing up to work. They seem happy at work. They're friendly to other people, and they can falsely assume that that is engagement. But as we said before, in the US, 33% are engaged. And then another stat that I saw online was that 81% of people are considering leaving their job at any given point. So just because you think that they're engaged, they're really not. Engagement seems like it needs to really be the full picture of people participating and having some sort of a loyalty or a fulfillment, some kind of personal connection. How do you define engagement, and how do you know that you're making an impact?
We measure everything. We think that by going into the social feed and posting a picture of your 40th birthday and having other employees see that, they get to feel what you're all about. And I have the ability in Wanido to say, you know what, I was just on an implementation call. Why do we do step 4 and 5 and 6 in that order? We should reverse it. I think we'd save a lot of time. Bang, there's a new solution. Now you feel wanted, you feel needed. So our ability to literally measure everything in our platform is our ability to prove our ROI, our worth back to those employers by start measuring. And what most of our clients love is now you have that story. You have a starting place, and now you know where to go. It's like a financial statement as we kind of compare it to a like platform. Employers will start seeing this and getting a vibe from, again, their organization, other employees that they normally wouldn't say. And that's what creates a healthy organization, is you're free to voice that without concern that it's going to come back and hurt you on the backside. And again, that's the power, is we'll elevate all of those different things within an organization to figure out what is causing the frustration, what is causing me not to like my job. Because as you read those stats, we see those same stats. Those are bothersome because a lot of those are probably things you could fix.
It makes so much sense on so many levels because everybody's getting exactly what they need, and it's incredibly impressive. I'm so excited to watch Wanido and everything that you guys do because you're transforming the industry and the way that employees live daily life. So thank you so much for talking about Wanido. I really appreciate your time, Troy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks so much, and thank you guys for watching. Bye.